I would like for you for just a little while to go to Psalms number 52. Psalms number 52. I'll tell you the story behind this psalm. It was during the time of David's fleeing from Saul. And it was in the latter part of those years when David was fleeing from Saul. And in his leaving and running and hiding, he went to the priest's house and the town where the priests lived for food and weaponry, personal weaponry. The only thing that was there was Goliath's sword, and he took it. While he was there fleeing from Saul, there was a man there, a sheep, who was over the sheep herders of Saul by the name of Doeg. It's called Doeg the Edomite. The Edomites were bitter enemies of Israel. And he observed David there and the priest helping David. Later on, Doeg the Edomite returned to where Saul was and reported to Saul that David had gone to the priest and that the priest helped him. Now, Doeg lied. He embellished the story. But at that point in Saul's life, he was in such a jealous rage because he'd already figured out that God had appointed David to succeed him. And so he sent for the chief priest and for all the priests to come to Saul, wherever he was, fighting a battle somewhere, to give a report of himself and what he had heard. Of course, the priest denied what Doeg had reported, and Saul didn't believe him. Make a long story short, Saul had all the priests killed, except one. The 15-year-old boy got away, and he ended up being the priest then for David when David got to the king. So there is quite a story behind this psalm. So here is David's, in writing, of course by divine inspiration, response as he wrote this psalm. Psalm 52. And by the way, my text is verse number 8. And this is a psalm about the mercy of God, because David knew that it was his running and some of his own deeds that had caused, from the human side, had cost all those priests their lives. And hence you understand why David pleads mercy in this psalm. And by the way, God did give him that mercy. So he's talking about Doeg the Edomite. Why boastest thou thyself in mischief, O mighty man? Doeg the Edomite. The goodness of God endureth continually. Thy tongue deviseth mischiefs like a sharp razor, working deceitfully. Thou lovest evil more than good, and lying rather than to speak righteousness. I think we all know people like that, don't we? Thou lovest all devouring words, O thou deceitful tongue. He's describing Doeg the Edomite. God shall likewise destroy thee forever. He shall take thee away and pluck thee out of thy dwelling place, and root thee out of the land of the living. Selah. David understood clearly the principle of God's retribution against evil people. it may look, from our side of the fence, it may look like some people are getting away with stuff. Nobody gets away with anything. There is the law of God that keeps accurate records, and it will not end well with the wicked, especially the wicked who raise their hand or their tongue or both against God's people. So David understood that principle. Now then, verse 6. The righteous also shall see and fear and shall laugh at him. It's a kind of a fine line. We're taught we don't laugh when bad things happen to people. Matter of fact, there's a verse that Solomon quoted that says, when you laugh at the misfortunes of another, God may take that misfortune, whatever it is, off of that person and put it on the person that's mocking. So we do not, even when something happens to wicked people, we don't laugh. So I don't have an answer for the righteous all shall see and fear. That I understand. But shall laugh at him. I don't have an answer for that. Other than I know we don't do that. We are to pray for our enemies. Lo, this is the man that made not God his strength, but trusted in the abundance of his riches, and strengthened himself in his wickedness. I see some of our society today in that verse. Don't you? This is the man that made not God his strength, but trusted in the abundance of his riches. I see a lot of that today, don't you? Yeah, we see a lot of that today. And then, and strengthened himself in his wickedness. Most of us that are somewhere, give or take my age, we've seen where when we were small, there was even some respect for God, some fear of God, even in the general public. We don't see that anymore. It seems like sin has come out of the closet and people are sinning with a high hand and proud of it. David understood nobody gets away with that. Because particularly, he's talking about Doeg the Edomite. But the principle is there for all ungodly people, that there is a day of reckoning coming from the hand of the Almighty God. Verse 8, my text. But, see, he's going to change subjects now. But, I am like a green olive tree in the house of God. I trust in the mercy of God forever and ever. The statement, I am like a green olive tree in the house of God. He said, what he's basically, if he were saying that in 2019 language, he would say, I am a Christian and my faith is in God. This, I am a green olive tree in the house of God. The olive tree was always a symbol of Israel. It was always a symbol of a believer. And the house of God was always, in the Old Testament, symbol or terminology for the temple, which was the dwelling place of God. So like I say, the statement, I am like a green olive tree in the house of God, he is saying the opposite to the lifestyle of Doeg the Edomite and all evil people. He is saying in today's language, but I'm a Christian and my trust is in God. Okay? I trust in the mercy of God forever and ever. And remember, David was carrying the load of some responsibility of how this all went down. And folks, when we do something that is against God, all we have to lean on is God's mercy. Amen? And we're supposed to. Hebrews 4:16, let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy. So, the conclusion, he looks at Doeg and his evil lifestyle and his compadres. He looks at his solitary life, though it be a a much better life under the hand of the Lord, the conclusion is, I will praise thee forever, because thou hast done it, and I will wait on thy name, for it is good before the saints. So in this whole scenario of him having gone to Ahinahab the priest, and the negative consequences, and you know, he made a bad mistake. He wouldn't use the sword of Goliath. He laid it down because he recognized it was a weapon of an ungodly man, representative of the weapons of the world when it came to the death of Goliath. And yet, sometime later, he goes back and gets it to use it. How emblematic that is of the state of mind and spirituality that he was in when all this transpired. And so he's recognizing now how bad that is, his fault in it, but yet I'm a Christian, I trust in God, I rely on his mercy, and I will wait on God to deliver me. Plain path for us. I want to say 7 things about God's mercy. Psalm 52:8, I trust in the mercy of God forever and ever. What can we say about God's mercy? Number 1, God's mercy is tender mercy. If it weren't tender, it wouldn't even be mercy. Mercy is gentle and kind and loving and gracious, and God extends tender mercy. Secondly, mercy is great mercy. What David did was the primary cause of over 100 people being killed. Saul sent the army and just wiped out that whole, not just the priest, but that whole town. And David knew that. But yet, God's mercy covered it. Don't let Satan come along and say, well, what you've done is too bad. God will never help you now. That's a devil's lie. If we'll be humble, God's mercy is great mercy. It's the only kind of mercy a great God can have is great mercy. Number 3, it's undeserved mercy. David had a hand in the death, indirectly had a hand in the death of all those priests. He, by legal definition, would be in complicity with what happened there. And a court would find him guilty on some counts in relation to that. But God extended mercy. God extended undeserved mercy. And you know, folks, there is no such thing as deserved mercy. It's a misnomer. It's an oxymoron. God's mercy is his free favor toward us. It's all undeserved. Any of us, there's nothing about us that God would say, well, they deserve my goodness. No. Mercy is undeserved. And then number 4, mercy's rich. Rich. How do you put a price on mercy? A court would have found David guilty, and under Jewish law, he would have been put to death. But God extended to him rich mercy, just the opposite. And then, of course, mercies are manifold. There ain't just one mercy. Mercies are manifold. There are many. Can anybody here honestly say, well, since I've been a Christian, God has only been merciful to me one time? No, it's over and over and over and over. And we have a bad habit of jumping into the same pitfalls again and again and again. And God delivers us again and again and again. Mercy is manifold. Number 6, mercy is abounding. I cannot use up God's mercy in my life. You cannot use up God's mercy in your life. And every believer on planet Earth today, millions, God has abounding mercy for everybody. It never has been diminished. It never will be be diminished, and because the population is so great, is now at the world like it has never been before in human history, we assume, we hope, that means there are many, 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 many more Christians on earth today than there ever have been. But folks, there's no end to God's mercy. It is abounding. And number 7, it's amazing. Unfailing. Unfailing. You can never do something so bad that even though you deeply humble yourself before God, He'll say, too late. No. No. God's mercy is unfailing. There's a scripture verse that is precious, and Jeremiah wrote it. It's the little book of Lamentation after the book of Jeremiah. Lamentation in this chapter number 3, Lamentation. And it is a book that, of course, it means to lament. And during Jeremiah's time, the nation went into captivity, and he writes this lament, or really even say it's a funeral dirge for the death of the nation. And here's what he writes in Lamentation number 3, the little book after the book of Jeremiah. Here's what he writes. Lamentation 3, beginning in verse 19. 19. Remembering mine affliction, my misery, the wormwood, and the gall. He just saw the destruction of his own nation that he dearly loved. My soul hath them still in remembrance in me, in remembrance, and is humbled in me. This I recall to my mind, therefore have I hope. Now remember, he's in exile somewhere, probably Egypt at this point, and the nation is in captivity. But yet, he finds hope in God. This I recall in my mind, therefore I have a hope. What's he recalling to his mind? Verse 22, it is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed. Folks, we have not survived on earth this long since the day of salvation because we've done such a good job. We're still here because God is good. And God is merciful. It's of the Lord's mercies that we're not consumed. Why? Because His compassions fail not. His mercy and His compassion, they, both compassion and mercy, they are new every morning. Every morning. Every morning you get up, God's cup of mercy is full for us. Great is thy faithfulness. That's where that song in our songbook, great is thy faithfulness, comes from. The Lord is my portion, saith my soul, therefore will I hope in Him. The Lord is good unto them that wait for Him, to the soul that seeketh Him. It is good that a man should both hope and quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord. Even Jeremiah, at such a terribly low place in his life, like David was when he wrote Psalm 52, even Jeremiah, in such a low place in his life, understood, as bad as it was, that God's mercy was still available. Amen? So, let's remember that. Let's remember that. Let's always go to the Lord and count on His mercy. It has always kept us, and it always will continue to keep us. Amen.